Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is David, and this is Fresh Faces, New Ideas. If you like what I do and you want to support me, please feel free to like and subscribe, or you can follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas, or you can listen to me on the Center Left Radio podcast when I go on Fridays. So, what is this video? This video is going to cover the COVID bill. It's slated to pass on Wednesday. Based on they're going to do the vote Wednesday is my understanding. I thought it was Tuesday, but it's going to be Wednesday is the latest reporting. So, what's in the bill? There's a lot of good things in the bill, and we're going to cover some of the bad things that happened in the bill or were attempted to happen during the bill, and some of the misinformation that you're absolutely going to hear about the bill that's going to come out from Fox News and from right-wing sources, because we're already seeing it. So, good things off the bat. $1,400 checks? They $2,000 checks? No. But you know what? It's something. It's more than we received in a single check from Donald Trump. So that's good in itself. We're getting the 1,400 stimulus checks to some segment of the American people. Is it as many people as it should be? No. Is it as much as it should be? Also no. But it's something. The child tax the child tax credit is really good in this bill. So if you have a child under the age of 5, you get $3,600, and if you have one or more children under the age of 18, you get $3,000. So that really helps families who have children, and that's a huge plus to them anyway. So you could be looking at $4,400 to about $5,000, depending on if you have kids or not. So that's a huge boost for a whole bunch of Americans. It should also it's going to help also single parents as well as parents two family households. So that's another really good thing. It has a lot of money for states. It has a lot of money for schools. It has a lot of money for testing. So let's be clear about some of these things. First off, every single Republican voted no in the House, voted no in the Senate. They'll probably vote again no in the House when it comes back for the reconciliation, if it comes down to a full vote. I haven't looked at how that works. But it's important to know that any single time you hear a Republican argue that the Democrats are trying to defund the police, there is only one party that has voted to not give states the assistance in order to keep themselves functioning, which one of their functions are the police force, and that is the Republican Party. Also, it's worth noting that Donald Trump passed two relief bills. You know who didn't vote against those relief bills? The Democrats. And you know why they didn't do it? Because the idea of hurting Donald Trump was less of a factor than helping the American people. That's where you have to look at this. The idea of hurting Joe Biden was more of a factor for the Republicans than it was to help the American people. That end point, in a full stop. There is no argument to be made because they made it clear. So this bill is good. Is it great? No. Is it everything that we could have hoped for? No. Is it have a lot of really good things in it? Yes, it does. It is a good accomplishment that this bill happened. It is a good thing. Let's not be, we're not going to ignore the good because it wasn't perfect. What a perfect, how could they have made this better? $15 minimum wage, actually putting the $2,000 checks like they said they would, have the payments being recurring. There's also a lot of deferments in this bill to help people with their mortgages and their rent. So this is a very good bill. This is going to help the American people through at least the pandemic. Another way that I'll get into is the unemployment. So the unemployment fight, we know that the when we're done with this crisis, one of the many things we have to fix is unemployment. Part of the reason we had to do the $600 stimulus, the boost unemployment, is because so many states were either unprepared or had so little unemployment that they couldn't give it to they couldn't make people survive on that. So that's what that $600 bonus came from. That's why there's still a bonus in this bill. So one of the plethora of issues that have to be fixed once we're done passing this bill is unemployment, whether we have to nationalize it or set a floor so that states like Florida, which only give out about 9 to 10% of their cases actually get paid out, and they get paid up like $50, is not good. So we have to change how unemployment works so that then, should God forbid something else like this happens and there is a fight over unemployment, we know that the unemployment system will actually be able to carry people. Instead of spending so much energy, trying to make it harder to get people unemployment benefits, we could focus more energy on helping people, go through the pandemic and get them other assistance. So that would have been a fight for the future, is to, make sure that unemployment is better now or in the future, so we don't have to deal with something like this again. All right, so let's take a look at some of the things that the Republicans were trying to push into. So we're going to start with Ted Cruz first. And his nonsense amendment, because his nonsense amendment, you're going to absolutely hear Fox News and them talk about, and you're gonna see it, and it's still going to be a lie. All right, so let's look at Ted Cruz. Hold on. Okay. All right. So Ted Cruz's amendment was to proposed an amendment to the bill blocking the $1,400 stimulus checks that he said would be going to every illegal immigrant in America. This is not true on any level. In fact, doing this would actually hurt 350,000 kids in Texas. So here's why he's an idiot. This bill only sends out checks to people who have Social Security numbers and have filed for taxes. If you're not a legal American, you don't have a Social Security number, and then you do pay your taxes through other means, but you can't get this bill, just like you didn't get it in the two Trump bills. It just isn't true that this bill would be there. So he knows this is a talking point, and he's going to repeat this talking point, and he's still wrong on this talking point. Under this bill, every single time you hear somebody say, this bill goes out to illegal immigrants, they are lying. They're doing it to make people scared and angry and to just drum up more fear about illegal immigrants, even though they will not benefit from this bill. The illegal immigrants can't get this $1,400 stimulus check because it's tied to your Social Security number, which they don't have. So it's just plain wrong. And he's not the only one who do it. Here's a report that John Barrasso is also arguing this. So this is not true. Also, worth mentioning once again, Ted Cruz tried to stop having any single person from getting anything in this bill. John Barrasso tried to stop every single person from getting anything in this bill. It is any argument that the Republicans have saying, oh, so-and-so would have gotten this bill. The response to them is, yes, but regular people would have also gotten this bill, and you didn't want anyone to have it. It is that clear. Their bill was not good at all. It would not have dealt with this. So when it comes down to it, the argument is always Democrats under Trump agreed that you need to be able to help the people, and it's more important than hurting the other guy. And they voted for two separate bills. The Republicans under Biden have decided it is more important to hurt Joe Biden and lie about what's in this bill than it is to help the little guy. And I will keep repeating this fact. So let's go to the other headline that you're going to see a lot. And this is from Fox News. I imagine you'll have seen or you'll hear something along the lines of mass murderers and are receiving $1,400 COVID checks, and that's wrong. So this is Tom Cotton's argument is that hold on. He posted two of them. So he said Daskar, the Boston bomber. I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce his name. Murdered 3 people and terrorized the city. He'll be getting a $1,400 stimulus check as part of the Democrats' COVID relief bill. He also posted the same thing about Dylan Roof, who was the guy who shot up the black church in Charleston. And here's the thing with it, that there's a whole lot of things that just aren't true. First, these checks went out under both Trump bills. Both Trump bills, prisoners got they got relief for that. They did. It happened. A judge, the IRS tried to stop it under the first one, and then they got sued and they lost that case. And here's why. So you're like, oh, here's the headline: funding convicted killers. Democratic COVID bill gives mass murderers taxpayer money right out of your pocket. It's not out of your pocket. So yes, the IRS tried to stop them under the first bill, but it was ruled that you had to give it to them. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, prisoners still have they still file taxes, and they still file they still have a social security number. So they still have to go through similar hurdles that other people go under in order to get this relief. They also still have bills to pay, and some of them who are coming out of prison during this pandemic are already facing mass unemployment issues anyway. So sending them this money actually helps them and their families. Does it help every single one of them? No. Should every single one of them be getting a COVID check? No. But the way that they're phrasing this is wrong. It's not oh, we're just going to give it to every to convicted murderers because they're good people. No, they're part of our system. They have funding that they have to do, and they get this bill in the same way that they got it under both Trump bills. So let's Daniel Dale had he actually just had a Twitter thread about this, going over and fact checking Tom Cotton. So let's see what he says. He said, this is his article. Tom Cotton, where is it? Okay, he says the CARES Act, which passed also sent checks to prisoners. And he said they're leaving out this only because a liberal federal judge mandated it over the government's objections month after the bill passed. He voted for that last bill, and the reason the judge overturned the IRS, saying that the IRS couldn't have it as a no prisoners allowed, is because the law does not say that. It does not say that prisoners weren't allowed to get these checks. So he's just lying. He's lying about this one when he passed it the first time, and he's lying about it when he's lying that he cares, because he didn't care under the first one, and he didn't care under the second one, and they're just using it as a talking point in the third one. So this is the same thing as the illegal immigrants. Well, yes, kind of. They're both making claims about these marginalized groups that they're using as scare tactics. However, one cannot receive the help because they don't qualify it. One does qualify, but they also deserve to get some type of help because it's not just them. Do all of them deserve it? No. But this is just wrong the way he's putting it. It is not. It is just making a scapegoat for this bill, because that's all they want to do is attack this bill. But let's be clear. Tom Cotton can complain, just like Ted Cruz can complain about who gets this bill. But their ultimate position, based on how they voted, was nobody deserves anything. Always remember that. Anytime they say, oh, well, under the Democrat bill, so-and-so gets it. Yes, but under your idea, nobody gets it. They made it very clear when they voted against it. So let's go to the best way to punch down for a Republican this way is, because now that the gay people more or less have rights, the new scapegoat is trans people. Now, I don't understand how this amendment works into the bill, and this is okay for the bill under the parliamentarian, but the $15 minimum wage doesn't. So Tommy Tuberville, who used to be a football coach, tried to include an amendment that would prohibit educational institutions from receiving funding if they allow biological males to compete in women athletics. So he did this in order to, because they're against this is their same argument with the Equality Act, is they're trying to defend women's sports, but it has nothing to do with this bill, and there's nothing in this bill that says that you have to, men have to compete in women's sport in order to get this funding. This is just a heartless amendment to just go after trans people. And there's other Alabama. This is a bit of a tangent. Just passed a law saying that you can't accept hormone blockers or transition surgery if you're under 19. And that if you're a teacher and you see a child who is going under these things, you have to out them. This is in their Alabama bill, because the whole point is to punch down at these people. They don't want them to have, the same rights as everybody else. This is a disgusting amendment that he put in here. And I don't understand how this qualifies to be in the bill, but the $15 minimum wage did not. So let's recap just very briefly the three things. Do illegal immigrants get the $1,400 from Ted Cruz? No, they don't. Why don't they qualify for the $1,400? They don't have Social Security numbers. You can't get the $1,400 without a Social Security number. So Ted Cruz is just grandstanding here. That's all you need to know, and he is lying. Tom Cotton, prisoners are going to get $1,400 under this bill. That is also true. They will get $1,400 under this bill. They also got $1,400 under the Trump bill and the other Trump bill, both of which Tom Cotton voted for. This one, he didn't. So when it came to helping you under a different president, Tom Cotton said no, just like Ted Cruz said no. Furthermore, his argument that a liberal judge is the only reason they got it in the first place is also wrong. Why is it wrong? Because the judge followed the law. There is nowhere in that bill that it says that prisoners do not receive COVID checks. So the judge ruled that, and that's why the IRS didn't fight it, and that's why they didn't fight it the second time either. So he's wrong on that again. Third, Tommy Tuberville decided that, trans people have had it for good too long. So instead of allowing them to be part of women's sports, we're going to make sure that the schools can't fund it from the COVID bill, which isn't something that it does anyway. So, it's just a blatant shot at this. The other thing with this trans ban amendment, Joe Manchin voted for this, but Lisa Murkowski voted against it. And part of the reason this still passed, even though it technically would have been a 50-50 vote if they just switched sides, one Republican had to go because he had to go home for a family funeral. So this amendment could have been in there if Dan Sullivan hadn't gone home. So I don't understand what Joe Manchin is thinking, because every vote for Joe Manchin is just perplexing, is all hell. I don't understand where he stands on these things. It's like he just wants to make the most infuriating vote. Now let's continue with Joe Manchin, because there's one more part of the bill that got changed. So technically, the minimum wage vote was the longest open vote for an amendment in the history of the Senate. It lasted about 7 or 8 hours. And the reason for that is, as they were passing this bill, it became clear that Joe Manchin might actually back the Republican amendment, and that amendment would extend the $400. So originally it was $400 weekly benefits. Joe Manchin was considering backing the Rob Portman plan, which would extend it $300 until July. Now the problem with this was they're on a recess in August. So what happened last year was when the bill fell out, or when the unemployment aid ended in August, it didn't get re-upped until the next bill passed in December. So all of those people who were receiving the extra stimulus from the unemployment, that was gone for almost 2 months. At least it was almost gone for almost 4 months. So that's part of what the argument was. So what ultimately happened was they decided that we're going to knock it down to $300, but we're going to extend it through September, so it'll be there when we come back, or it won't run out after the fiscal cliff. It won't fall. It won't end while we're not here. And then we're going to also make the first $10,200 of unemployment that you get untaxable. Because what's happened is that people who have received the unemployment benefits are currently not, or sometimes getting tax bills on the unemployment benefits that they're receiving. So what this does is, if you have a household that makes under $150,000, the first $10,000, a little more than $10,000 you get in unemployment aid won't be taxable. So why they had to knock this down by $100 is just beyond me. So this saved what was it, about 2 more months, it saved about the government like $1,000 a person for whoever qualified for this. I don't get it. I don't understand what Joe Manchin's thought process to this bill was. I don't understand why this was where he wanted to go. Keep in mind, the reason that the cutoff point changed from 75 to peter out at 100 to 75 to peter out at 80,000 for an individual and 160,000 for a couple instead of 100,000 and 200,000 is because Joe Manchin thought it needed to be more targeted and that some people would receive the money who didn't need it. So that's why less people are going to get this check than under the Donald Trump check. So I don't understand what Joe Manchin's thought process was in order to make this bill worse, because that's really the only impact he did was to make this bill worse. Hopefully, and this is hopefully, the only way he makes up for this is by actually allowing some type of filibuster reform. And I'm hoping that's what they got out of him. Is, we're going to give this to you, but you're going to give us filibuster reform. And he has indicated that there will be some type of filibuster reform he's willing to be okay with, whether it's a standing filibuster or changing the length of how long it takes to actually pass a bill is unclear. But it's good here. So let's recap very quickly. Very very quick recap. So the bill passed. It passed the Senate, and by Wednesday, it should repass the House. So what happens is the House had their version that had the $15 minimum wage. It had a larger group that would receive the check. It didn't have it wasn't extended as far. And then in the Senate bill, which doesn't have the $15 minimum wage, and it extends the unemployment till September, but it doesn't give the $400. They have to reconcile and decide, okay, so how do we figure out whose part goes where? So the House is going to vote on that on Wednesday, and then it will go to Joe Biden's desk. And the key is they have to get this out by the 14th, because at the 14th is when the next cutoff for when the unemployment stops. So to recap, Ted Cruz is wrong. Illegal immigrants cannot receive the stimulus checks. Why can they not receive the stimulus checks? Because they don't have Social Security numbers. And full stop. So him saying that is just a lie. It is more fear-mongering to make you hate the people below you instead of fighting against the 1% that the Republicans love. The next person is Tom Cotton. Tom Cotton's fear-mongering that all these mass murderers are going to get COVID checks. But what Tom Cotton doesn't tell you a couple things. Both of these things happened under both Trump bills. He also doesn't tell you that the advocates are fighting for prisoners to receive this. Why? Some of them are about to be let out. Some of them already have bills and families that they need to help support. Some of them have just bills anyway, and this is how you can do it. And they also have to file. They have to file their tax report. They have their own Social Security number, so they have to file in order to get this money anyway. So it is difficult for them to get it on top of it. Also, once again, Tom Cotton voted for both Trump bills. Both Trump bills sent money to prisoners, and then the IRS tried to stop it. And then a judge said you can't. And the reason you can't is because the law that you just passed doesn't say they can't get the bill. So he's going to fearmonger it, but he sent the same thing. Tommy Tuberville decided that trans people needed to be kicked down some more, and said that if your school allows biological males to be in women's sports, you don't get federal funding. That's not part of this bill. It has nothing to do with this bill. Joe Manchin decided, hey, that sounds like a good idea too. Thankfully, Lisa Murkowski, in the only good vote she had that day, said, no, we're not going to put that in this bill. And the reason that worked, even though only it's a 50-50 split and one Democrat, one Republican flipped, is because that Dan Sullivan had to go home. So that's how there was only 49 Republicans anyway. So that's how that happened. The last thing is Joe Manchin also helped. He helped hold the longest vote ever because he couldn't decide how much he wanted to hurt poor people. And the reason that is because he was considering to say, we will cut off the benefits in July, and then we're going to go on break. And then if you're lucky, we'll re-up it in December, just like what happened last year. That's what Joe Manchin did, and I don't understand it. I don't know. I do not understand why he decided that poor people don't deserve the extra $100 in unemployment, and I don't understand why he wanted to cut it off so early. And I know his argument is, people are going to make more money on unemployment than they are in their regular jobs, and we want people to get back to work. There is no proof that people will not go back to work because of this stimulus. And the reason people aren't going back to work is because there aren't no jobs. And that's how because a lot of people were fired and 60% of small businesses closed. That's why people aren't working, not because they're getting fat on the hog from the government. Also, the argument that if you're making more money on unemployment, which it varies from state, but it's usually about 50% of whatever your wages are normally. If that extra $600 a week pushes you more than what you're making with your full employment, maybe it's time to raise the wages too, Joe. But we already know Joe Manchin voted against that as well with a whole bunch of other senators. I have a video on that. So, overall recap. This is a good bill. There's some good things in it. The child tax credit is really, really good. $1,400 stimulus is very good. The states need aid. They absolutely do need aid. It's not just a blue state bailout or whatever garbage you're going to hear. It's a good bill to help Americans deal with this pandemic. Hopefully, we won't need to do another one. Hopefully, we can actually get to start bouncing back as vaccines push out. But let's be clear. There is a very big difference between the two parties now. The Republicans, when they controlled the Senate and the White House, they had supported the Democrats to help the American people. And their bill was the single largest upward transfer of wealth in the history of the world. They gave massive, massive money cannon, and they fired it directly at the highest paid people in the country. They fired it at the corporations. They fired it at the billionaires. They said, go on and take it. And then when it came to the Democrats trying to help the American people, Democrats unfortunately decided to argue against themselves and cut it down a little bit. But every single Republican said no. We think it's more imperative that Joe Biden loses a political battle than to help the American people. And that's where they stood on it. All right? So, if you like my content and you want to follow me more, please like and subscribe. Please follow me at Twitter @FacesIdeas. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.